Welcome to LiveDaf, your online Daf Yomi Shir.
Shalom Aleichem, welcome back to today's Daf Hayemi Maseches TEMURAH Daf Tes. We begin at the Mishnah right on top of the Amud. Says the Heilige Mishnah. Mimirin, one has the ability to make a TEMURAH, to make a substitute, min hatzoin, ala bakar, from tzain onto bakar. If one has a korban of tzain, of a lighter animal, sheep or a goat, that can generate a TEMURAH onto a bakar, a heavy animal, cattle. So even though there are different types, the bakar can be considered a TEMURAH of the tzain. We'll see in the Gemara because the pasuk doesn't specify that it has to be the same exact type. Pasuk says, "V'imhamer yamer." If he attempts to make a substitute, behema bi behema, one behema on the other, what happens? It doesn't really substitute. It doesn't take its place. Rather, they both have kedusha. So the kedusha from the original one extends and expands over to the one alongside it. V'hayahu, so the original utmarasai, and the copy, yeh kodesh, both will be kodesh. So the type of animal is irrelevant. Mirin min hatzoin ala bakar, one can make a TEMURAH from tzain onto bakar, and vice versa. Umin bakar ala tzain, from bakar on tzain, and within the light animal, family itself. Umin akvasim, from sheep ala izim on goats, and vice versa. Umin izim ala kvas. Gender is also not a factor. From the min hazacharim onto the al hanakevos, and vice versa. Min hanakevos al hazacharim. Min hatmim. Here's a chiddush. You can make TEMURAH from tmimim, from an unblemished korban, excuse me, al balimun, onto another animal alongside it, which is a blemished animal. So the kedusha gets applied to that as well, as we're going to see in the Gemara, because the pasuk says that even if it's good bad or bad and good, toiv bara, oira b'toiv, it works. Min atmimim ala balimumin, min balimumin ala tmimim. So this Baal Mum will have inherent Kedushas Aguf, unlike standard Magdish of a Baal Mum, in which case it doesn't really rise to the level of inherent Kedusha. It just becomes, Kaddish for its value, to be used to buy a korban. But here, it actually attains Kedushas Aguf to a certain extent. And that's even though it's a Baal Mum before it became a TEMURAH, before it became Kaddish. Min atmimim ala bali mumin, min bali mumin ala tmimim. Shenemar, as the pasuk says, lo yachlifen, v'lo yameroisai. One should not switch, one should not substitute. Toiv b'ra, oira b'toiv. So you shouldn't do TEMURAH on a toiv, onto a good, unblemished animal, b'ra, as a substitute for the korban, which is ra, which is blemished, or the opposite, a ra b'toiv, or take a blemished animal and make it into a TEMURAH of a toiv, of a good, unblemished, whole korban. Ve'zeu toiv bara. What's your example of toiv, where he's taking an unblemished animal and making it into a TEMURAH of a korban, which is ra, meaning the korban is a Baal Mum, and despite it being a Baal Mum, it has the ability to generate a TEMURAH. That's only Bali Mumin shekadem Magdeshan as Mumin. That's only if the korban became Kaddish before it experienced a Mum. In which case, it already rose to the level of Kedushas Aguf. And even though it experienced a blemish later, it doesn't downgrade it from, it doesn't lose its Kedushas Aguf ability, Kedushas Aguf status, and its ability to generate a TEMURAH. However, suppose he had a blemished animal to begin with, and he made it Kaddish. He turned it into an Oila Shlamin. That animal would never attain Kedushas Aguf. It's sort of aborted from the get-go. It can't rise to the level of Kedushas Aguf, in which case it can't generate TEMURAH, which is something that only a Kedushas Aguf can generate. Okay, so again, the TEMURAH process applies even though it's not really, symmetrical. You have tzoin and bakar and tzoin, etc., etc. And even from tam to balmum and vice versa. Manan Abili says, how do we know that you can make this uneven temurah of all different types? The Tan Rabbana behema behema. So that's the lashon of the pasuk. Mekan, we learn from here that it applies to all different types and stripes. Mekan, from here we learn shemimiran, you can make a temurah min atzayin ala bakar, umin abakar ala atzayin, and the whole list. Min akvasim ala izim, umin izim ala akvasim, umin ascharim ala nekevos, umin nekevos ala ascharim, umin balimum ala atmimim, umin atmimim ala balimum. So even if he has a carbon which is a balmum, it can generate a temurah. But as we explained, that's only when the kedusha preceded the mum. What about an animal which had a mum before you made it into a carbon? So it never really achieved the status of kedusha sakov. Can that also generate a temurah on the animal, standing alongside it? No. The pasuk warns against making this temurah, and the pasuk continues. Whether it's toiv, whether you chose a complete, unblemished animal to make it into a temurah from a ra, from a carbon which is ra, or the opposite, a ra, or you chose a blemished animal to make it into a temurah, b'toiv, off a complete carbon animal. What type of type ra are we talking about? In what situation can a person take an unblemished animal and draw from a carbon which is ra? That's only when the carbon was kaddish before it became a balmum. So even though currently it has a mum, it can generate a temurah alongside it. My Talmud, how do you see it in the pasuk? Where do we find this distinction? That if the carbon achieved kedusha before experiencing the mum, then yes, he can make a temurah. But if he became a balmum before, he can't. Where do we find it in the pasuk that you just quoted? Amar Abaye, I'll tell you how. We have an extra word in the pasuk. Because really, the pasuk could just say like this. Name a crow. The pasuk should just read as follows: whether he's taking a good animal toiv and making it a temurah off bara, off a balmum, and then in describing the reverse scenario, it could just simply state it in short: oira boy, or he took a bad animal and made it into a temurah boy, from the toiv. So you can relate that message without repeating the word toiv again. Toiv bara oira boy, in the good one. But toiv achrin normally, why the double mention of the word toiv? Shema not to teach us. Toiv meikare oiseh temurah. A carbon could make a temurah, yes, provided that it was toiv meikare. He was good to begin with. So he rose to the level of kedusha guf, and then he became a balmum. Okay, he can still generate a temurah with ra meikare, but if he was ra, he was bad to begin with. He never got to the level of inherent kedusha. He was a balmum from the start. Einish temurah, that carbon cannot make a temurah. Rava adds, Taravayu toiv yutir miyatri. Once we're pointing out the extra word, actually, there are two extra words in the pasuk. It says toiv once and again, they're both extra. Each one to teach us a halach. One, as we just said, and another one for another point. Let me explain. Imkain, because otherwise, nichtav krolay lech lefenu, v'lo yamer oisei, bara. The pasuk could just leave out the word toiv altogether. I understand that the direct opposite of bara is toiv, right? So it should just say, look, don't make it temurah, it in bad. So it obviously is good, the good from the bad. Or the bad off the good. Why even mention the word toiv at all? Never mind twice. So each one has its own message. Chad toiv. The one mentioning of the word toiv is to teach us afilu toiv, and there's a girsa afilu toiv b'toiv nami. Even if they're both good, the carbon is toiv and the temurah is toiv. Kimim Milaki, that temurah generates malchus. So that's one point. The next toiv is to tell you toiv mi'ikara is TEMURAH. Ra mi'ikara is TEMURAH, just as we said before, that the carbon could generate a TEMURAH provided he was toiv mi'ikara, he was good to begin with, and then he became a balmon, but otherwise not. Abaye disagreed. He held that you don't have to have, two extra toivs, one to teach us, this point, and also to teach us the second point that Rava presented, that even a toiv b'toiv, if they're of equal value, there's malchus. Abaye will tell you, it's plain logic. Of course you get malchus for doing toiv b'toiv. Uma toiv b'ra. Because look, even when he takes a good animal, unblemished, and makes it a TEMURAH from a bad carbon, which is really essentially an upgrade. The Eluye Kamalile, he's elevating the carbon from bad to good. Look, he gets malchus. Certainly if they're both on an even plane. Well, he had no contribution, he didn't elevate it. Toiv b'toiv, which are both on the same plane. L'koshkan lucky, of course, wouldn't you agree that he gets malchus? So that's plain logic, we don't need a pasuk for that. Rabbi says, look, yes, I understand that it is logical, but there's a halacha that we can't generate a punishment, we can't apply malchus or other punishments based on a kal v'chomer. That's the halacha, so we need a special pasuk to point it out. Abaye tells you, look, this is not your standard logic. It's included. Halav dinu. This is not called a din, a logic, a kal v'chomer. Migara TEMURAH. Why would it be worse? Meaning, it's inclusive. Once the Torah punishes for going from ra up to toiv, certainly toiv to toiv. Rashi explains, because clearly the Torah is not giving you any leeway for any credits for upgrading. Torah says, don't do it. The Rachmana lekaped, says Rashi, about halfway down the Yamid, the Rachmana lekaped el de leyachlef midin hegdish. Torah is concerned about flipping and switching. Any sort of swap generates malchus. Tanarabana, lo yachlifenu, right? V'lo yachlifenu v'lo yimar oisei. What's the double lashon? Lo yachlifenu b'shel achir. That covers two owners. Rashi says, Chiluf mashma al yidei beis anoshim. It's indicative of two people making a transaction, a swap. So you're making a TEMURAH using two people's animals. Mine animal and yours, or the opposite. It says second part of the pasuk, speaking about generating a substitute on one's own animals. And both are us. Why is there a need to mention both? Why can't we just have the first part? We don't need the second part of the pasuk. It's pretty much all one and the same concept. The answer is no. Because of hachi. Had the Torah only stated lo yachlifenu, I would have thought who the silk. Only when he's trying to make a real swap, to have one take the place of the other. Right? So then I would say, then he gets malchus. Because he's attempting to vacate the first animal and apply to the second one. That's a no-no. Aval meimer, but using the term TEMURAH, which is indicative, not that he's trying to swap it and vacate the kedusha from the first one. Rather, the tavayu kamagdishlu. Yeah, both will stay kaddish. The first one retains its kedusha and just gets expanded onto the second one. Perhaps that's not so terrible. Kamashmalan comes the pasuk and says, either way, he gets malchus. Now let's go back and analyze. We spoke about being involved in somebody else's carbon. How are you going to do that? How can you even attempt a TEMURAH with somebody else's animals? Do you have a say in the other person's animals? How do we even picture a TEMURAH involving somebody else's animal? Are we speaking behema hegdish today? The actual behema of hegdish belongs to him, to Ruvain. And the chulin animal, which is the TEMURAH candidate, belongs to Shimon. How could Reuven turn Shimon's animal into a Temurah? It's not his. How could he be Magdish that? Ish ki yagdish es beisai koilish la'Hashem rachmana. To a pasuk in describing a hegdish process related to a person's home. That's an example of a hegdish. Ma beisai b'shus, just like your home is your domain. Ma beisai b'shusai, avkol b'shusai. Likewise, only something which is in his domain, something on which he has ownership, can he actually be magdish, as opposed to his friend's animal. So what's even the Havamina? Rather, we're speaking the opposite. The oila belongs to somebody else. The second animal, the mundane one, the chulin, belongs to him. So now Reuben is trying to take his animal, make it into a temurah off somebody else's. Again, how does that work? Mimatvis. How could he? How could he bring over? How could he, latch on to a kedusha which is not his? So what's there to talk about? You're right. We're speaking b'behemoth the hegdish. At the carbon belongs to somebody else. The day and the yichum belongs to me. How could I draw a kedusha from somebody else's animal? Going to Amma Mari the behemoth. We're speaking that the animal of that carbon, behemoth the hegdish, announced, be my guest. Anybody who wants to make temurah with my behemoth can go ahead and do it. So he gave a license to do it for anybody who chooses to do so, in which case I can actually draw kedusha from that one and put it onto my animal as well. Okay, so in conclusion, from the pasuk behemoth, we learn that temurah works even if it's not an even, comparable, matching equation. One type of the animal, the other type of animal, one type of one gender, the other, even tam to balmum and vice versa. Regarding a balmum generating a temurah, we learned that it's only if the carbon has kedushas aguf. So it was kaddish and then became balmum, but if it was just a balmum from the start, it never got to the point of kedushas aguf and can't generate a temurah. That's learned from the pasuk. The extra word toiv, I'm going to Rava. We have another limud from the pasuk to tell you even if it's an even comparable swap, toiv v'toiv, there's also malchus, and there's also malchus, whether it's yours or coming off your friend's animal. Either way, it's covered under this pasuk. Now, what if it's an uneven amount? The numbers don't match. Says the Mishnah, Memirin echad b'shnai. So, one can make temurah on one b'shnai in exchange for two. So he has two karbanos, and he says, okay, this one chulin should be the temurah of these two. And the opposite as well, ushnayim, you can take two chulins be'echad, make it a temurah of one carbon. Echad be'meyo, mei be'echad, 1 of 400, 100 of 1. Shimon Omer, no, it has to be 1 to 1. Ein memirin, ala echad be'echad. Shenemar, as the pasuk says, v'hayu temurah siyeh kodesh. And we learn that the temurah is comparable to the original. Just like the original is 1, mahu miyuchad. Rashi says, because it says, who? Singular. Af temurah, af hi miyuchedes, the temurah also has to be just 1. So it's 1 to 1. Minah amili. How do the Chachamim, Tanakama, know that you can make a temurah even if the numbers are mismatched? Tanur, again back to that pasuk, behema bebehema, temurah behema bebehema. Mikan, from here we learn shem emirin echad bebeis ubeis beechad echad bemeya umeya beechad. And in a minute we'll see how. Where do we see this uneven matchup? Reb Shimon disagrees. Reb Shimon Omer, echad has to be 1 to 1. Only shenamar behema. One animal and the other animal. V'loi behema as opposed to one animal of many. V'loi behema as opposed to many of one. Amar loi. Chacham responded to him. True, it says behema, which sounds like it's one. But matzinu behemos, we find elsewhere that many shekrui behema can be classified as one. The term behema can refer to a group, to a multitude. Shenamar, as we find in Yaina, the city of Nineveh was inundated with many animals, behema, and it says it lashon yachad behema rabba. Many of behemas. You see the word behema can denote many. So here as well, although the pasuk by Temurah speaks about behema can mean many. Many after few, and few after many. Reb Shimon responds, yeah, over there it says behema rabba ikri. They're called behema rabba. The many behema stam ikri, but just plain the word behema means single. And that's why I disagree. And I hold it has to be 1-to-1. So the time of the Reb Shimon behemohu, is this Reb Shimon's source from the word behema that's singular? By the time of the Reb Shimon who? If you look back at the Mishnah, he concludes with a different source. It says about Yahayahu T'murasa, and he learns Mahu Miyuchu, just like the original carbon is one, after T'murasa Miyuchedes, likewise the T'murah is one. So which one is the source? The pasuk of who or the pasuk of behema? You're right. Meikara initially Amar Lahan of Shimon Min Vayu T'murasa. Initially he presented that as a source. But once he came back and heard the Rabbanon quoting the pasuk in Yaina as their source, Amar Lahan, so he responded to that too. In disagreement. He responded, Mihasam Nami Matzina Lamelaf Tamid. Actually, from that pasuk as well, I can base my opinion. Because Behema is really Lashon Yochid. Okay, so what's the machlokes? All agree 1-on-1 works. What about 1 on many or many on 1? Reb Shimon says no. Rabbanan say yes. Amar Reish Lakish. Even Reb Shimon who says it has to be 1-to-1, might Reb Shimon would agree if he does it 1-to-1. Okay, so he has his oila, puts another carbon alongside it, makes a Temurah, and then moves that away and brings another one, like a conveyor belt. Does it one at a time, in single file, but he's repeating over and over again. Can one carbon generate many Temurahs if done in single file? Amar Reb Shimon, yes, Moed Reb Shimon. Shem Emirin, one can make one Temurah, V'chayzin, Emirin, make another one afterwards. My time, you know why? Kedusha is still intact. It's fully intact. Kedusha Rishona de Hegdish Leichan Halcha. Where did the Hegdish of the Kedusha of the original Hegdish go to? Meaning it's still there. So it could rubber stamp many Temurahs. Rabbi Yechon Amar says no. It's a one-time opportunity. Rabbi Yechon Amar Kashem Shein Memirin Beis Be'echad. Just like Rabbi Shimon holds you can't apply Temurah on 2 off 1. Because one carbon can only make one Temurah. Kain, Ein Memirin, V'chayzin, Memirin. Likewise, you can't do multiple Temurahs, even one after the other. Tanaka Vasei Rabbi Yechon, Tanaka Vasei Reish Lakish. We have a brayso to support either view. Tanaka Vasei Rabbi Yechon, we have a right to Rabbi Yechon. The brayso says, Kashem she'ein Memirin echad v'shnayim, just like you can't do echad v'shnayim. Kach, Ein Memirin, V'chayzin, Memirin. You can't do repeated Temurahs, even if it's one at a time. Tanaka Vasei Reish Lakish, we have a right to Reish Lakish as well. Yochel Kashem, Shamar B'Shimon. Perhaps just like Reb Shimon disallows an uneven. Shein Memirin Shnayim Be'echad, you can't do 2 off 1. Kach Ein Memirin V'chayzin, you can't do one after the other. Tam Leimar. V'hayev T'murasa Yiyah Kodesh. So Sama says, we have the extra word Yiyah, Afilu B'meya. It's ongoing. You could even do it 100 times over and over. Boy Rabbi Yav, now I have a question. So, according to Reb Shimon, it has to be 1-to-1. Furthermore, according to Reb Yechnon's understanding of Reb Shimon, it's a one-time opportunity. So, according to that opinion, that Ein Memirin V'chayzin Memirin, you can't do repeated Temurahs. It's a one-time opportunity. And once you do the Temurah once, it the Temurah ability expires, it depletes, it's used up. So picture this case. I would like to know what happens in the following. I understand, the original carbon can't generate another Temurah. Fine. But what about something which came off the original carbon? Can that make a Temurah? He's his own fellow. He's an independent entity. Or perhaps no, he's coming from the original Kedusha. What about if it's the same carbon as before, but he now was relabeled? He generated a Temurah when he was, let's say, an Asham. Now he's relabeled as an Oila, somehow. We'll see in a minute how that happens. So he's the same animal, but new and revised, rebranded, a new Kedusha. Can he go ahead and make a new Temurah? So, to what extent do we limit and apply this, one-time TEMURAH opportunity to. So let's picture the case. Hifresh asham l'schaper boy, v'hemer boy. The fellow was obligated to bring an asham. Here it is. He set it aside, and he made a TEMURAH from it. Okay, so that's been sort of used up. We turn Talmud base. We're not done. We're far from done. We're going to have a total of 3 animals in the equation now. V'huma. Now this animal, let's call him number 1. Became blemished. Cannot be used for an asham. Al-acher. He transferred the kedusha of number 1 onto number 2, hoping to use that. Turns out, it didn't pan out. He didn't end up using number 2 because, Rashi explains, number 2 got lost. So he had to go find the number 3. And he actually used the 3rd one for his kapara. And what happens with number 2? The halacha is, an unneeded asham turns into an oila. It's now been rebranded and relabeled as an oila, v'nitak la'oila. It's been sort of detached, relabeled from the asham status and turned to an oila. So let's focus on number 2. Number 1 made a TEMURAH, but number 2 is a new animal. Furthermore, the TEMURAH generated by number 1 was when number 1 was an asham. Number 2 is now an oila, so it's a new and revised entity. Separate animal and a new name, a new carbon. What about making a TEMURAH off number 2? There are 2 separating factors here. Separating 2 from 1. Animal 2 from animal number 1. A, it's a different guf, new body, it's a new animal. And B, it's a new kedusha. This is an Amra Abaye. So Abaye is wondering, why do we have to go that far? I mean, which factor is the deciding factor? Is it the separate animal that you're focused on? Or is it the new kedusha? So pick your choice. Just focus on one of these elements and ask, why do we have to sort of combine both factors to generate this very complex equation? We have both factors that play together. We have the new animal and the new kedusha. What's the main point of his question? Which factor is the focus of our wonderment? If the main criterion is the fact that it's 2 bodies, a new guf, despite being the same kedusha. Okay, so we don't have to get so complex. So just stop at number 2, without adding number 3 into the equation. Number 2 is a new guf, but he's the asham, so it's the same kedusha as number 1, but he's a new guf. So perhaps that's enough to justify making a new TEMURAH. Was that the main point? Alternatively, eBay's kedusha v'guv echad is the main deciding factor here, whether or not it's the same kedusha. So the question is, let's say it's a new kedusha. Yeah, the original asham made a TEMURAH, it's done. But now that we have a new kedusha, even if it's the same guf, that we say, well, the new kedusha gets its own opportunity to make a new TEMURAH. If that's the defining factor, then we don't need to. We don't need to get number 3 involved. And you don't even need a mum in the picture. Rashi explains what happened was, you had your first animal, the asham, you made a TEMURAH from it, and it got lost. Okay, forget about the mum. It got lost. He came up with another animal, number 2, and now, he discovered number 1, he came back, so now it's unneeded. He already had the kapara from number 2, so number 1 now becomes an ayla. So it's the same guf, but it's a new kedusha. Does this present a new opportunity for TEMURAH? So why do we have to sort of tie together all these factors together and make us for this complex, very detailed equation? 1 and a 2 and a 3, just focus on one aspect and consider that. Says the Gemara, Rabbi Abban had both questions. That's why he put it together. Rabbi Abban he had one question evolving from the other. It was sort of a double-decker question. The first question would have been, yes, if you have a separate guf with the same kedusha, can that be considered separate and independent? Okay, so let's say you had the first asham, it got a mum, transfer the kedusha onto the second asham, so it's a new guf, but it's the same kedusha. Is that enough to make a new temurah? Maybe yeah, because it's a new guf. Maybe not, because it's still identifying with the same kedusha as the first one, and that's been depleted, that's been used up when you made that first temurah. And if that's the case, imtim tzalaymar, shnei guf and kedusha achas loy, if you're going to, submit to that consideration that since it's the same kedusha, number two has the same kedusha as number one, they're both asham, so despite it being a new guf, loy, that's not enough justification to generate a new temurah. Mishum debahi kedusha, ho'itmu b'chadazmin, because a temurah had already been generated from that kedusha when he made the temurah off the first one. So if that's the case, let's develop this question further. What if it's more than just two gufin? What if I present you with a case that is two gufin and a new kedusha? Shnei gufin ushtei kedusha isma'u teiku. We leave it unresolved. So let's add another element to the equation. There is a number three involved, because initially there was an asham, number one. He made a temurah from it. He got a mum. He came up with number two, which at this point was an asham. It went missing. He introduced number three into the picture. He was makrivit, and now number two was discovered. It's unneeded. It turns into an oila. So here we have two elements of separateness, written two on one. First of all, two is a separate guf than one, and it's a new category of a carbon. It's an oila. Perhaps that will open up a new temurah opportunity. Teiku. So we leave it unresolved, pending the arrival of Mashiach. Okay, so again, we're going according to Reb Shimon. The temurah can only be 1-to-1. Rabbi Yechon adds, it's a one-time opportunity. So the same carbon cannot generate more than one temurah. What if the equation changed? There was an expansion of this carbon. It turned from 1 to 2 to 3. And now you have a new guf. Or you have a new guf and another kedusha. What happens there? So according to this approach, we'll see soon there's another version of this discussion. According to this approach, the baseline here is a new guf. The question is, a new guf alone, is that enough to generate a new temurah? Or a new guf plus the fact that it's a new kedusha as well, which is a more advanced shaila, because it's even more separate. And both are left unresolved. There's another version, which is slightly different. According to this version, the new guf factor isn't necessarily the overwhelming factor. It's one consideration. But the fact that it's a new kedusha is an even more serious consideration. There's another version. Rabbi had a shail. Live Rabbi Yechon. According to Rabbi Yechon, right? Rabbi Yechon the Amar ein memir and chayz memir. You can't repeat the temurah over and over. So one carbon can make one temurah and that's it. Suppose hifresh asham l'schaper boy. He was mafresh asham number one for his kapara. V'hemir boy. He made from it a temurah. So that's been used up. V'humam. Number one got a mum. V'chilay al-acher. And he transferred the kedusha to number two. And the question is, Ma'u sheyachzer v'yamer. Can he go ahead and make a new temurah from off number two, which is a new guf? And there's a gersa inami. Alternatively, let's present another variation of this shaila. Let's start again. He had number 1 sitting here. He made from it a TEMURAH. And then this one went missing. And he presented number 2. And that one generated a kapara for him, which renders number 1 unneeded. Now we'll switch into an oila. Same animal as before, but new identity. Mao, Shiachser, V'yamer, can you make a new TEMURAH with this new identity, with this new carbon? So basically, Rav Abin is presenting both factors together. In the first case, it's a new guf with the same kedusha. In the second case, it's a new kedusha with the same guf. Amar Abaye, which one is it? Which one is the question? Which factor are we considering? Which one is the main point? Kedusha achas boisa guf, the same guf, but a new kedusha. Kedusha acharas boisa guf. Then skip the idea that it got a mum, and then he transferred kedusha onto the second one. There's no mum. Number 1 went missing. He was chaper with number 2, and number 1 is now unneeded. It's a new name, a new oila. Was that the question? Iguf acher boisa kedusha was the main point to present the case where it's a new body with the identical kedusha as the first one. So then when boy is chaper b'ashem acher. So skip the idea that it went missing and used another. Simply have a case where he had number 1 and it got a mum. He made a TEMURAH from it, then it got a mum, then he transferred kedusha into number 2. So it's a new guf, but it's an asham, same kedusha as number 1. Basically, why did Rabbanan present his shaila in a pair, and with 2 separate cases paired together? Which one's the main point? Was it the first scenario, where it's a new kedusha with the same guf, or is the main thing the second point, where it's a new kedusha with the same guf? It says the Gemara, he had both to consider. It was one question out of the other, one based on the other. So first he presented the first story, Humam v'chilaloi al acher. So he had number 1, he made from it a TEMURAH, and then it got a mum, he was mechal kedusha onto number 2, so it's a new body, but same kind of kedusha. Mao shiachser v'yamer. Can you make a new TEMURAH off number 2? Shall we say, look, it's a new body, but it's the same kedusha? Shall we say, b'asham rishonu de'ein chayzer meimer? Yeah, off the first asham you can't make a new TEMURAH, but now it's a new carbon, it's number 2, even though it's the same kedusha. Avagav the kosher is kedusha, even though it's still identifying with the same kedusha as number 1. In fact, it got its kedusha from number 1. It was chalo off number 1. Chayzer meimer, but still, you can make a TEMURAH. Or if it's the same kedusha, that kedusha has been used up. Kol b'yisa kedusha, if it's still the same kedusha as number 1, which already was depleted, and chayzer maybe you can't make a new TEMURAH. So it's a new guf with the same kedusha. Now, if your response will be that even though it's a new body, but the focal point is what type of kedusha is it? So even though it's guf acher, kivan the ba'isa kedusha kaim, since he's retaining the same kedusha, he identifies the same kedusha as number 1, which has already been used up. Ein chayzrim, you can't come back a new TEMURAH. If that's the answer, what if it's a new kedusha? So you see, according to this version, the focal point is new kedusha. But let's say what happened was, let's start again. He had an asham, and he made a TEMURAH from it, and then it went missing, and he came back with number 2. I was nischaper with it, which renders the first one unnecessary. Now the first one is not relabeled as an oila, so although it's the same guf that already generated a TEMURAH, but now it's a new type of carbon. We can make a new TEMURAH with that. Shall we say, when do we say you can't repeat a TEMURAH off the same carbon? It's the same body with the same kedusha. But if it's the same animal, but it's already a new kedusha, such as here when it's switched from asham to an oila, chayzer, maybe you can come back and do a new TEMURAH. Or you can say no. Even though it's a brand new kedusha, we have to reckon with the fact that it's the same animal as before, and therefore but take it, we leave it unresolved. Okay, so according to the second version, what happened was Rabbi in fact, presented two separate questions. First one was where it was a new guf, same kedusha, and the second question was where it was a new kedusha, same guf but a new kedusha, which is a better case. It's newer, it's fresher, it's a whole new thing. Perhaps that would work. So Rashi points out there are some nuances between, differences between the first and second lashon. The second lashon we seem to focus on the fact that it's a new kedusha. That's a more important factor than the fact that it's a new guf. Whereas according to the first lashon, focuses on the fact that it's a new guf. That seems to be a more paramount, consideration. Okay, let's turn to the next Gemara. Amar Shimon Levi, which is pretty much almost a repetition, word for word. So again, we speak about something which is only applicable to the original as opposed to the copy. And the question is, if you have an expansion of the original, which expands to something new, how new and how separate does it have to be to gain its own complete independence? Is it the new guf? Is it the new kedusha? Pretty much a repetition of the previous Gemara, with Rabbi Abin posing the question, with Abaye looking for clarification. Omer Shimon Levi, Hegdesh Rishon Ma'aseh Chaimish, Ve'ein Hegdesh Sheni Ma'aseh Chaimish. Halacha is that if a fellow has a carbon and it gets a blemish and he comes to redeem it, he has to add a fifth. That only applies to the original, not to the copy. Which means, let's say that original became a balmum and he transferred the kedusha onto number 2, and now he comes to redeem number 2. There's no chaimish on that. So chaimish is limited to the original, not to the copy. Very similar to the previous Gemara. The original animal has one chance to make a TEMURAH. The question is, what constitutes the original, right? How separate does it have to be to consider new? Likewise here as well, except here it's on the flip side. The chaimish only applies to the original, does not apply to the next in line. The question is, how far from the original you have to be considered next in line to exempt you from the chaimish? So again, hegdesh rishon ma'aseh chaimish, ve'ein hegdesh sheni ma'aseh chaimish. And likewise, Rashi explains on the fourth wide line, u'temurah nami have hegdesh sheni. What's another example of a hegdesh sheni, of a second, generation hegdesh, a temurah? You have the original, on which you would add a chaimish, but on the temurah of that original, he's not his own. He's not an original. There's no chaimish upon redeeming that. So first for the reason, and then we'll explore. Omar Papa, my time with Rabbi Shimon Levi. Where's he coming from? Omar, when is the fifth added? V'ma magdish. That's for the original hagdish. V'ma magdish yigalas beisai. When it comes to redeem his house, that he was magdish Yosef Chamishis. V'Yosef Olav. V'Yosef Chamishis. So we learn Magdish. It only pertains to the original. V'lei Amatva not onto the one that's latching onto the original. Now comes Rabbi Abban with this question. With one version, and another version, it's pretty much a repetition from the previous Gemara. Good Chazorah. Rabbi Abban. Hifresh Asham was Chaper Boy Behumam. Same story. He was Mafresh and Asham. Let's call him number 1. Behumam. Except here we're not inserting anything about TEMURAH. Okay? V'humam, I got a mum. And of course, he has to add a fifth when he redeems it. So he did this chaimish dues already on number 1. And he was machalad. He transferred onto number 2, al chaveroi. Bach adds the word al chaveroi onto number 2. And then number 2 got lost, and he found number 3 to be machaper from. Number 2 is waiting, extra, unneeded. V'nitax al oila is returned to an oila. Now he's coming to redeem number 2. If it gets a mum. With a fifth or without? Is he a copy or is he an original? Is he identifying with number 1 or is he his own man? His own animal? Ma'osh yezel chaimish. Because really there are 2 elements of independence, of separateness between 2 and 1. First of all, he's a new animal. Secondly, he's a new carbon. He's an oila. So once again, Abai wants to know why are we pairing together both factors? Why this confluence of elements here to present the question? Focus on one. Like, what's the main point? Separate animal or the separate kedusha? Amar Abai, what's the main question? Ishnei gufen kedusha achas kam b'boile, because it's a new guf, even though it's the same kedusha. So then skip number 3. We don't have to have number 3 in the equation that he used for kapara. Just speak about number 1. And he designated number 2 in its stead, which is now new guf. Despite having the same kedusha, both asham, but it's a new guf. Maybe that qualifies. That requires its own chaimish. If the main point was the fact that it's a new kedusha, despite being the same guf, is that the focal point of our question? How new is that? So then skip the mum. What happened was he had number 1 sitting here, got lost, he designated number 2, and number 1 now is extra, so it turns into an aylat, a new, an approved, a rebranded, carbon. Does it get its own chaimish? Well, on this kedusha there was no chaimish yet, only on the original chaimish, asham. So why pair together all these factors into one story? The answer is he had both things to discuss, so he paired it together. Rabbi Abin Chadav Chadav Kambaili was one question evolving from the other, one built on the other. First, one element of separateness, and then another element of separateness. So let's start with simple. He had one animal, an asham. So got a mum. He was paid it, added a 5th. Now he came up with number 2. So it's a different guf, but it's the same kedusha. Does that get its own chaimish? And if you'll say no, it doesn't get a new chaimish because it's the very same kedusha. In fact, number 2 drew his asham kedusha from number 1, and that kedusha has already exercised, its chaimish obligations. Because in that kedusha, you already added a chaimish for that kedusha. That's been addressed already. So the answer to this question is no. Let's get more advanced. Let's expand the equation. Shnei gufen. Ushtei kedushas might take. What if we add another animal to the equation? Because 2 went missing, and he added number 3 for kapara. Now 2 is here, available, but now it's renamed as an oila. So there are 2 elements of newness here between 2 and 1. 2 is a new animal, and 2 is a new kedusha versus 1. So maybe it gets its own chaimish teiku. Very similar to the previous gemara. There's another version of Rabin, which corresponds to the second lashon as before. And in fact, he separated the factors and he presented them 2 separate questions. What if it's a new guf but the same kedusha? And then he said, what if it's a new kedusha with the same guf and the same story? But he did refer to both factors. What about this and what about that? But Rabbi Hifresh Asham is chaper boy. He had the Asham for kapara. V'humam garamum. V'chil al-acher. V'hoisif olav chaimish. So the first case was, number 1, garamum. He redeemed it with a chaimish. He transferred the kedusha to number 2. So it's a new guf, but it's the same kedusha. They're both ashams. And now he's looking to redeem number 2. Does he add a chaimish? That's the first question. Inami. Alternatively, so here's the other case. Nischaber ba'asham. What happened was he has a carbon asham. Let's call him number 1. And it went missing. So he presented number 2 in its stead. Nischaber ba'asham acher. He used that one for kapara. Now he discovered number 1, which is unneeded now. It's been relabeled as an oila. And now it got a blemish, and he wants to redeem it. Does he have to add a 5th or not? Mao she'yosel l'chaimish. So in this case, it's no longer the original kedusha in terms of kedusha. So it's like a new thing. So perhaps there's no chaimish. He's not the original. But you can argue, he is. It's the same body. So what do you focus on? The kedusha of the body. So once again, Abaye wants to know, what's the focal point of our question? Which factor are we dwelling on? The newness in terms of the body, or in terms of the category of carbon? Abaye, hadein kamed ba'ile. What's the central focus of our suffix? Which element? The body or the kedusha? Kedusha acheres ba'isi aguf kamed ba'ile. The main point was the kedusha factor. So if you have a new kedusha, but it's the same body, like in the second case we just mentioned, is that considered the original or not? Okay, so Leili Baile, you shouldn't have the other question presented. Leili Baile Humam. So why did you discuss the first case where it got a mum and he was machal to a new body? Let's focus on this case. V'guf acher b'isa kedusha. Alternatively, if the main point was whether a case where it's a new body despite the same kedusha, is it considered a new one or not? If that's the main point, so it's about the guf that he's focusing on. So there's a girsa which adds a couple of words here. So then he should delete the second part of the question where it went missing and it was relabeled as new carbon. That's not the point. The point is it's a new body. The answer is he had both questions on his mind. Both questions, one out of the other. First he asked, Humam? V'chiloi al-acher, v'ois al-chaymesh, v'chazer v'humam, ma'osh yosef alav. Chaymesh? So first he cited a case where it was a new body with the same kedusha. So he had the first one standing, he got a mum. He added a fifth, and he transferred the kedusha onto number 2. So it's a new body with the same kedusha, both asha. And now I got a mum, do I have to add a fifth on this one? Is it considered number 2? Is it considered a copy? Or is it considered its own original carbon because it's a new body? So that was his first question. Right, mi amrina. Shall we say basham kamahu? A lot of words missing here. Hu de'einei moisif. Yeah, if I'll redo a pidyon on the first one, I can't add another fifth. It's meaning that if I take the first kedusha, then I transfer it onto a Baal Mum. So some Farshim explain. So again, he had number 1, got a Mum, and he transferred kedusha onto another Baal Mum. So that second animal never got kedusha saguf. It's only monetarily kaddish. So if you'd come around and redeem that second one, that's just like a copy of the original. There's no nu chaimish on that. That's not the original kedusha. I wouldn't add another fifth if I'm relating to the same kedusha coming off the first one. Aval beguf acher, but suppose he transferred the kedusha off the first one onto a guf acher, a new body which is a tamim, an unblemished animal, which is suitable for the mizbeach, which has kedusha as a guf. So perhaps it gains its own notoriety, its own identity, despite identifying with the same kedusha as number 1, but it's his own man. Even though he stands with the same kedusha, which he absorbed from number 1, it's not really a copy of the old block. Some take out the next word. I would add a fifth because it's a brand new entity. He's an original carbon. We turn to the next Amid. Or you can say no. The fact is, the second animal has the same kedusha as the first. He got it from the first. If it's the same kedusha, you don't add a fifth because he's not the original of this kedusha. He's a copy. Okay, so the first question was same kedusha but a new guf. And if you'll say Hadein Guf Acher, they change it to Acher, it's a new body. Kivin Moisa Kedusha Koyin. Since it's the same Kedusha, Bach says, there's no Chaimish anymore on this because the Chaimish has already been used up first time around. What happens if it's a brand new Kedusha? Ella, however, in a case where, a different case, in Schavabach, what happened was he had a carbon here, it went missing. He came up with number 2 instead, and he realized his kapara. And then he found number 1. The first one now turns into Eilam Mao. Question is a chaimish required? Is this a brand new carbon? Is this like an original? Ki moisev chaimish voise aguf. Voise kedusha. Shall I say that when is the 5th added? Only when it's the same body with the same kedusha. The original hagdish. But if it's a new kedusha, so it was converted into an ayla, that's not an original kedusha because it's coming off the asham. Lo yadilma kivin doisa guf. Who? Moisev chaimish. On the hand, you can say, fact is, it's the same guf as the original asham. He's not a copy. He's an original. Do add a 5th. Take it with you unresolved. So it's very similar to the previous Gemara. Except here we're talking instead of, the previous Gemara spoke about only the original has the ability to make a TEMURAH once. But if it's a new independent entity, he has his own ability to generate TEMURAH. The question is, what's considered new and independent? Is it based on a new body? Is it based on a new Kedusha? What about if they both come together? Okay, that was that discussion. Here we go a bit different, exactly the opposite. Chaimish is only applied to the original Kedusha, not to the copy. Not to the, chip off the old block. The question is, what's considered new? What's considered separate? What's considered a copy? And what's considered the original? So if it's truly new, it gets its own chaimish. But if it's somewhat a copy of the original, it identifies the original, and he's not the original, right? He's a second generation. The chaimish is specific to the original, and not to the matter, not to the copy. So we have the same factors at play. And we leave it unresolved. Take all the best to you, and Hatzlacha.